Bonjour mes amis, et bienvenue au Pendu dans le Cercle de Lune. Hello friends. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, I'm sure you already knew from my attempt at a French introduction that this is my series in which I use Terre de Marseille adjacent, or antique Italian decks to help me get a concise message from my larger weekly spread. And I've already done my larger weekly spread. And just in case you have not seen that video yet, I will put a link up here for you to hop on over and take a look at that first, because I really do think that would benefit you. Having a sense of where this week's reading has come from, what platform this has launched from, in answering the question, what is the central message of this week's larger spread? So now remember, you don't have to watch the larger video in one sitting. You can watch it in bits and pieces. That's perfectly allowed. So go back and watch that, then come back and watch this so that you have, again, the basis from which this reading is being done. Now, just in case you have seen that larger video and you want a quick rundown, I think I called that video the discomfort of inspiration. Sometimes we get inspired, but that inspiration, when we don't know exactly what to do with it, where to go with it, can cause internal conflict. Have you ever experienced that? That's what this week's video seems to be about. When we live our lives intentionally, sometimes that inspiration that comes up can be disruptive, can be uncomfortable, discomforting. Well, maybe that's also possible. So that is always a possibility. And now what are we going to do with that? So I'm using two decks this time. One, Terre de Marseille. And I'll put the link to the, I'll talk about that in just a moment. First, what am I going to do? I'm going to show you the spread that I laid out. Then we'll talk about the cards that I'm using, and then we'll read the spread together. Okay? Are you up for that? Are you ready for that? Here we go. So friends, what did you think? Were you just thinking, oh man, that's a shitload of cards? Were you also wondering about the cards? Well, the three cards on top, you know, are from a Terre de Marseille deck. And it was interesting that they were all small cards, right? They were all pips. Two swords and a wand. The wand's in the center. Very interesting, very interesting. So all three were active, none of the receptive, they were all active. Two airs surrounding a fire, also very interesting. But then below, do you know what that deck is? That's called the Cercle de Lune. It's a very interesting deck. It's a deck that was created, but not really very well published. Probably not even very. What am I trying to say? I think the deck was created, but it wasn't published for mass use at the time, in the late 1800s. It was found in the mid-1900s by a card reader who decided to reprint the deck, and it's called the Cercle de Lune, and it's a very interesting deck. It's based on the Terre de Marseille. It really is based on the Terre de Marseille, and it's also based on astrology. And it reminds me a little bit of Lenormand style reading. I would read this Lenormand style. And that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be reading this somewhat Lenormand style. But I've just started studying this Oracle deck as an accompany to Terre de Marseille readings. And because I'm reading this as a Lenormand deck, I'm always going to be pulling three cards. I never read a Lenormand card individually, always minimum of two best with 3. That's how I think about it. That's how I can make a sentence. So, we're going to start off with the Terre de Marseille, right? And I just said we had this I love this reprint of this deck. Again, there will be a link in the description box below. We had 2 swords and a wand. We had the 4 of swords, the 9 of wands, and the 7 of swords, which is interesting. Yeah, 4 of swords. What is that? It's taking caution. It's conservation, but conservation in this in the location of mind, of of plans, of our vision, of our perspective, a conservation of ideas, of attitudes. It's also analysis, systematic thinking, and rationalism. Yeah? Working things out, thinking things through in a very structured and stable way. It's a practical mind, acting usefully upon reality. Organization and stable intellect are indicated here. And you see this flower is large and blooming and blossoming here in this courtyard of the mind. Being well tended and well structured and a safe place, a safe mental space. It's got stability, which could lead to, over time, being constricted and confined, but right now it's stability. The next card is the 9 of Wands. Now, 9s for me are endings, they're finals, they're the energy is gone. Yeah, the burst of energy in the 8 and the crash in the 9. It's the senioritis, it's burnout. Senioritis, like in high school. Did you have the idea of senioritis when you were in school? I don't know. It might be a different generation. Generationally, I'm not sure. But 9 of Wands. Exhaustion. Yeah? Our energy, our passions, our fire is burnt out. Lack of motivation. It could also be sacrifice and self-domination. Yeah? I've got to keep myself in control. Got to keep my passions under control. Excessive use of willpower. It could be experiencing the end with acceptance and renunciation. Like, I'm done. It's done. I'm done. The end. Of course, it's not really the end because we got the 10 next, but it's that feeling of acceptance of, okay, I've done all that I can do. Right? And I'm not really motivated to do anything else because I've used it all up. And then the next card is what? It's a 7. 7s for me are breaking out. It's the 5 is a breakout in playfulness and experimentation. The 7 is a breakout of moving whatever that element is, fire, water, air, earth, into the community. Community being either co-workers, your family, community at large, your peeps, whatever. You're into your group or groups. So the swords moving out into the group could be teaching. It could be writing for consumption of others, like writing blog posts or writing information to share with others, writing books, writing articles, writing letters. It's thought into action, ideas into action, putting things out into the world, into the community. It's a receptive intellect as well, yeah? The sword cracks open the beauty of the 6 to allow new stuff in. A pacified mind can serve the other. Now the mind has calmed down, and now we're open to helping others as well. And we can be self-effacing, and we can be more giving now because of that. We can share of our intellect. We can share of our ideas, our perspectives here. So what does that mean? We go from the 4 of Swords, which is conservatism, right? We've got this tight structure, which leads us to a kind of burnout, right? But from that burnout, the phoenix arises as we open ourselves up to sharing with those around us. Now, we started off again with this blooming flower in the center, but it's confined by analysis paralysis, by systematic thinking, by rationalism, which is all wonderful. But again, right now at this time, it could be bordering on being oppressive. And so, oppressive, burnout. We lose our passion. We lose our desire to move. We feel this, we accept the ending of something. But then we break out of our shell and we say, okay, so now what? Now I share, I talk, I teach, I describe, I share what I've learned, what I know, what I have come here to do, the thoughts that I'm having, the perspective that I have with those around me. Which is interesting because this week's larger tarot and oracle spread, the advice cards that we got from the I Ching were all about joining with others and cooperative mutual assistance. So this going out and sharing our thoughts with the world, with the people around us, is in perfect alignment with this week's larger spread. And then we move down into the Oracle de Lune, which is interesting. Now, we got from left to right, we had the Keep, then we had the Chained One, looking a little bit like the devil, or one of the imps from the devil, and then we had the Trumpet. And it's interesting to me because the tower here, it's not a prison, but it is a confining space, reminding me of the confining space of mind here. Now, this is a more emotional card, and this is more of a thought card, but they're both pointing towards confinement and structures and walls. Sanctuary, perhaps, but sanctuary can become a prison over time. And it kind of does, right? The next two cards were this, and below it was the Chained One, which is bondage, being trapped. We'll get to that in a moment, but there's that this is the end. I accept my ending here, right? And then we moved into a swords card of breaking out and breaking through into sharing with the community. And here we have the Trumpet of enunciation, of appreciation for talents, etc. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But the three cards up and below seem to be reflecting each other and reflecting the same journey, the same progress. So we'll start here again with the Keep. Now, towers in the Oracle de Lune are about structures moving from the earth up to the divine, connecting us with the spiritual realms. And it's associated with the moon, which is emotions, which is cycles, right? But the Keep here is a protected home. Yeah, there's also a crown at the top, right, which is command and power, but also contains the four divots at the, I'm sorry, I'm showing you the wrong card. Okay, the tower. It's a crown at the top. The 5 points going up show our power and our command, but the four dips between those pointing things up, those four dips between the 5 things pointing up, those indicate the 4 elements of And they're earthy and they're solid and they're together and they're strong. So we have the resources and we have the will together here in the crown. The title of this card is Les Penetres, which is home, a family house. So rather than being a castle tower, this indicates a family home, a place where we are safe and we can stay or visit. There is an element of being methodical, tactful, and reliant here. We can be relied on. We're tactful. And we proceed methodically. The secondary planet for this card is, guess what? Saturn. Now, if you saw the larger video this week, you'll know that Saturn played a really important role in a very negative way. And it's because of this Saturn as the secondary planet of this card that we also have a somewhat negative interpretation for it. Because Saturn brings a frame and a rigidity to the moon's emotions. And we had Saturn in Cancer as one of the complements for complement or an exaltation. Just a moment. As a complement for the Six of Swords. Now we had Saturn in Cancer as a complement. So here we have Saturn in the moon card as well. So there's another link here between these two spreads. And Saturn's not really all that happy in the moon. Yeah? Saturn brings frame and rigidity to the moon's emotions, settling down for safety. But when it's next to Mars, there's a sense of confinement and repression and restriction. And the next card is Mars. So we start off with this home, with this tower connecting to the heavens, but it's something that has become restrictive and repressive and gives us a sense of confinement, which is echoed in the chained one, right? Mars, which is bondage. It's whether it's voluntary or not, it's still bondage, being trapped by influences or circumstances, which seemed to be an echo of this week's larger reading, where we feel trapped by this flame, this new inspiration that is here, that we don't know what to do with it, and we feel perhaps bound and trapped by that strife. This card is intense, resilient, hardworking, and trustworthy on the good side. But there's also despotism here. And I think it's that despotism, that overpowering, controlling idea that is being emphasized here. And the secondary planet for this card is, again, Saturn. So restrictions through obstacles. Around Mars, there are delays, there's heavy responsibility. Sorry, my camera turned off. There's an auto-destructive potential here. So what do? Well, the last card is the trumpet, which is Jupiter, which is wonderful. The secondary planet here is Mercury, so this joins the heavens with the earth, and it's communication of what was granted by Jupiter. Jupiter grants, Mercury communicates, which is wonderful. This is the announcement of manifestation in its full glory, which is interesting because the very ending of the larger spread was the universe card, which is tying things up and getting ready for a new beginning. So we have that here, an announcement of manifestation in full glory, appreciation for talents or actions to be recognized. There's a playfulness here, a lightheartedness here. a person of abundance and enthusiasm. So we break out of the chains with this call to manifestation in full glory, to playfulness, to lightheartedness, and that is the solution. Just as we were called from this confinement leading to this exhaustion into the Seven of Swords, which is breaking through, teaching, writing, communicating with others, and being receptive, intellectually receptive, and sharing. Now this is more subtle. This is more a pacified mind, and this is more playful and joyful, but maybe we could be both. Yeah? So, this week's larger spread was the burst of new inspiration and the discomfort that we could be feeling around that and the way through it. And this, I think, is a reiteration of this larger spread where this thing which is growing feels like it's growing within the confines of some kind of this, right? Which leads to exhaustion. But we can get out of it. Playfully, by communicating with others, by interacting with each other, with others, by sharing, by being cooperative with the idea of mutual benefit. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to hear from you. And friends, thank you for joining me on this journey. If you want a private reading from me, my email address is below, thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, we'll get you a reading. And friends, if you are still here, thank you. Hit that thumbs up button. It really does help the channel. And also subscribe if you have not subscribed. It helps the channel and that helps you too. So friends, again, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.